Good morning, boys and girls. This is Miss Nancy, ready for story time once more. I thought before we started reading a story today, maybe we'd like to sing a little song together. And this is a song that you've probably heard before if you've been to nursery school. It's called The Wheels on the Bus, and the song goes like this. The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round, all through the town. The horn on the bus goes beep, 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 beep. The horn on the bus goes beep, 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 all through the town. I hope you'll all keep singing with me. It goes on. The wipers on the bus go swish, 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 swish. The wipers on the bus go swish, 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 all through the town. The baby on the bus goes bye, 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 bye. The baby on the bus goes bye, 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 all through the town. The signals on the bus go blink, 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 blink. The signals on the bus go blink, 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 all through the town. The wheels on the bus go round and round, all through the town. That's a fun little song to sing. Maybe we'll sing it again another day. Now, the stories I've chosen for today, one is called My Teacher Sleeps in School. It was written by Letty Weiss and illustrated by Ellen Weiss. Now, it's actually based on a story that really happened. There were some children who really thought that their teacher always slept in school and lived in school all the time. Sometimes it's important to talk to your mom and talk to your dad about all the experiences that you've had. And sometimes when you have a conversation with them, that will clarify what actually happened. So let's start this. We have a picture. We're using elephants to represent the children in the story. And this is how the children in her class imagine that she sleeps on her desk in school at nighttime. Goodbye, called Mrs. Marsh. I'll see you all tomorrow. Mrs. Marsh went back into the school, and every one of the children began walking home. I think the teacher sleeps in school, said Molly. I think she stays there all night long. What a dumb idea, said Gary. Teachers don't sleep in school. Oh, Mrs. Marsh does, said Molly. She's always there when we come, and she's always there when we leave. I think the classroom is her house. Well, why don't you ask her, dared Gary. I did once, said Molly, and she just laughed and laughed and laughed. But she didn't say yes, and she didn't say no. But where would she sleep, said Gary. Where would she eat? Well, let's look around the room for clues tomorrow, said Molly. Maybe we'll find out. The next day, Gary could hardly do his work. He kept watching Mrs. Marsh and wondering, what if it's really true? He whispered to Molly, what if she really does live here? Pretty soon, Louisa and Jason were wondering too. Where does she keep her clothes? Asked Jason. In the closet, of course, said Lisa, behind the paste and paper. At playtime, when Mrs. Marsh wasn't looking, they opened the closet door. Look, whispered Lisa, a towel and soap and a mirror, squealed Gary. I'll bet she gets dressed in this very closet, said Molly. And undressed too, giggled Lisa. I'll bet she wears funny pajamas, said Gary. And gloppy cream on her face, said Jason. They pictured Mrs. Marsh in her pajamas and couldn't stop laughing. They just think it's so funny. And this is what they are imagining. They're imagining Mrs. Marsh in her pajamas. They're imagining Mrs. Marsh using a mirror to wash her face and sitting on her desk to read a bedtime story. Next, they tiptoed over to the play kitchen. I saw her hide 2 bags here this morning, said Molly. More proof, said Gary, in a very loud whisper. It's paper plates and napkins and lots of forks and spoons. She must be having company. I see cake mix and eggs in this bag, whispered Lisa. She must be baking a real cake. I think she cooks her supper here every night, said Molly. That oven is only make-believe, said Jason. She can make it work, Molly said. Teachers can do anything. And here's the play kitchen that the children play in when they're at school. Here's the table they sit at with their little teacups, and there is the oven. But, as Jason said, that's only a make-believe oven. It doesn't really bake or cook things. Then they thought about where Mrs. Marsh ate her supper and did her laundry and brushed her teeth before she went to bed. So these are what they're imagining. They're imagining Mrs. Marsh sitting at their table. They're imagining her hanging up her clothes on a clothesline in the classroom and brushing her teeth before she goes to bed. Out of the faucet over here, if you can see in the corner, there is a little faucet that children use to get water from when they're in school. But where did she sleep? That was still a mystery. Maybe she sleeps on the bookshelf, suggested Gary. Or on the piano, said Molly. They looked and looked, but they couldn't find any clues. Then after lunch, everyone was getting ready for an art project. When Mrs. Marsh was in the closet getting paper, Gary snooped around behind her desk. There's something under here, he whispered. Come and see. A pair of slippers, said Molly, and a pillow. She must sleep under her desk. We never thought of that. I told you so, said Gary. She really does sleep in school. Poor Mrs. Marsh, sighed Lisa. I bet it's lonely here at night. And creepy, said Jason. Then Molly had an idea. Let's leave her a good night snack, she said. And a nice note, said Jason. And something cuddly to sleep with, said Lisa. Gary had part of a sandwich left over from lunch, and Jason had saved 6 potato chips for later. Lisa got the teddy bear out of her cubby. Molly was in charge of writing the note. Surprise, she wrote. That's what's right down here on the note that she's writing. We know you sleep here. Good night and sleep tight. Gary promised to keep everything a secret, but soon the whole class knew. Everyone started giggling and whispering. Mrs. Marsh looked puzzled. What is going on here today, she asked, but nobody answered. By 3 o'clock, Molly had wrapped up the goodnight package. Then Gary sneaked it under Mrs. Marsh's desk. There he is looks like he's got the little teddy bear for her to sleep with, and the note is inside. The next day, everyone got to school early. They could hardly wait to hear what Mrs. Marsh would say. But all she said was, We're going on a mystery trip. And she wouldn't tell them where, not even a hint. Everyone got on the school bus. They rode and rode. At last, they stopped at a house with a blue door. Can you guess where they're going? "This is where I live," announced Mrs. Marsh. Gary looked at Molly. Molly looked at Lisa. Lisa looked at Jason. Then they followed Mrs. Marsh inside. Mrs. Marsh showed them where she cooked her supper. See, it's a regular kitchen with a regular stove. And where she did her laundry. It looks like it's part of a laundry room in there. And where she brushed her teeth before she went to bed at night. This looks like a regular bathroom where you would go. See, the towels are hanging up so that she can dry herself after she takes a bath. And there's a sink where she would brush her teeth. "And this," said Mrs. Marsh, "is where I sleep." "Every night?" asked Molly. "Every night," said Mrs. Marsh. Then she showed them her children's rooms. "You even have children?" asked Lisa. "Yes," said Mrs. Marsh. "They're in school all day, just like you are. When my husband and I get home from work, then we're all together, and we have dinner together." "Just like us," said Molly. "Now follow me," said Mrs. Marsh. "I've saved the best for last." She led the class into the dining room. There were the paper plates and the napkins from the shopping bag that they had seen in school the day before. "I've been planning this special treat for the class," said Mrs. Marsh. "Oh," said Molly, "we thought—" "Oh, I know what you thought," Mrs. Marsh said, laughing. Then Mrs. Marsh brought out a big cake, and just like Molly's note, it said, "Surprise." "I baked this last night," said Mrs. Marsh. "I baked it in my own oven in my own kitchen, and after that I went to sleep in my very own bed." Gary gave Molly a poke. "I knew it all the time," he bragged. "Teachers never sleep in school." Molly didn't even answer him. Mrs. Marsh was smiling at her in a very special way. "Molly," she said, "would you help me cut the cake?" Mrs. Marsh served everyone a piece with a heart on it. And she saved the biggest heart for Molly. Now, I think that is such a sweet story. I was a teacher for 33 years myself, and I taught very young children, 3 years old in nursery school, and later I taught children who were in junior high school and in high school. But always I enjoyed teaching. I don't think any of my students ever thought I slept in school, but I was always there before they came to school, and I was always there after they left school. Anyway, still, remember, this was based on a real story about what some real children thought about their teacher. Now, I'm just going to have a little glass of water, because sometimes my throat gets dry when I'm reading. I read to my little grandson, Oscar, who lives in Boston. We do it on FaceTime because, he's so far away. And when I get a drink of water, he gets one too. Now, the next story I would like to read is called The Case of the Missing Lettuce. And it's a mystery storybook. And it's always kind of fun to see a bunch of rabbits and see what they're doing in this particular story. And it looks like this Mr. Rabbit has planted quite a garden. So, the story was written by Jack Long and it's illustrated by Leonard Shorttail. And here's Mr. Rabbit. It's basically about a rabbit and his garden and what happened to his garden. And it's written in 3 chapters. Chapter 1 is the first clue. Chapter 2 is asking questions. And chapter 3 is at the fair. Chapter 1. The first clue. Betty Beaver and Perry Blossom were having lunch in their new detective agency when Robert Rabbit rushed through the door. "Betty, Perry, come quickly," he cried. "Last night someone stole my head of lettuce." "Don't be upset," said Perry. "You have lots of lettuce in your garden." "Oh, no, no," said Robert. "This was a very special lettuce head. You must find it." He does look like he's very anxious about something. Betty and Perry followed Robert to his garden. "I was growing that lettuce for the county fair. It was beautiful and sure to win first prize." You can see where the lettuce has been removed. "What's first prize?" said Perry. "A brand new shiny pogo stick," said Robert, "with red tassels on the handle. And here's the sign that says Good Forest County Fair Contest. Carrots, cabbage, lettuce, corn, tomatoes, first prize, pogo stick." So they're looking for the very best head of lettuce, the very best carrots, the very best corn for the prize. "See, it's gone," said Robert. "Sure is," said Perry. There, it should have been right there. "Whoever took the lettuce had to have seen it in your garden and plotted how to steal it," said Betty. "Why don't you write down the names of everyone who you showed the lettuce head to?" she said. See, Mr. Rabbit was very proud of his lettuce head, and he showed it to all of his friends in the forest. "Look," shouted Perry. He pointed to a loose leaf of lettuce that was caught on the garden gate. "Our first clue," said Betty. Betty took out her magnifying glass and looked at the leaf. "I'd better hold on to this," she said. "It may be useful later on." Betty checked Robert's list. "You can cross off Barry Blue Jay," she said. "He would have flown away, not walked through the gate." "Let's go visit the other suspects," said Betty. "We'll start with Sharpie Porcupine." So there they are. They're all going off together to check on the various suspects. We have Sharpie Porcupine, and then we have Dottie Deer. That will be somebody else they're going to check. And here they crossed out Barry Blue Jay. This is Chapter 2, Asking Questions. Betty, Perry, and Robert walked to Sharpie Porcupine's house. Sharpie was inside brushing his quills. He's quite a porcupine, wearing his blue overalls and brushing his quills. Those are actually used to protect porcupines. If they get frightened or if they have an enemy come close to them, those quills will stand up and they can shoot them out, and the points of them will hurt you if they stick into you. "We've come to ask you a few questions, Sharpie," said Betty. "Questions?" cried Sharpie. "Questions? What sort of questions?" His quill stood up on end, as you can see here. "Where were you last night?" asked Perry. "I went to my sister's birthday party," said Sharpie. "Were you there all night?" asked Betty. "Yes," said Sharpie. "I slept over, too. The party was over late, and it was just too dark to walk home by myself." "That's all we needed to know," said Betty. "Thank you very much for your information." Betty, Perry, and Robert left Sharpie's house. "We can cross Sharpie off the list," said Betty. "He was with his family all night." "Who's next on the list?" asked Perry. "Dottie Deer," said Robert. And if you can look at this picture, I'll try to point out some things. This picture, this illustration is so much fun. There are so many things going on in it. Over here we have a stork standing on one leg. We have Mr. Turtle wearing a red hat, and we have it looks like some kind of a bird with a long beak, and then we have a raccoon over here, and a flying stork, and a dragonfly flying over the lake. And here's Mr. Frog sitting on a log. Dottie was outside, lying in the shade of a tree, watching her children play. And here's Dottie dear and her two children. "Hello, Dottie," said Betty. "Do you have time to answer a few questions for us?" "Certainly," said Dottie. "Let's go inside." "Come on, children," she called. "Where were you last night?" asked Perry, as they all sat down in Dottie's living room. "I was here," said Dottie. "Any witnesses to that?" asked Perry. Dottie looked confused. "He means, did anyone see you here?" explained Betty. "Oh, yes," said Dottie. "The mayor. She had dinner with us." "The mayor?" exclaimed Robert, Perry, and Betty all together. "Yes," said Dottie. "She had asked me to be the Good Forest School crossing guard next year. She came over to tell me about the job and give me my uniform and my sign." Yes, at many schools they have crossing guards to make sure that children who walk to school get across the street safely. "Well, congratulations," said Betty as they all went back outside. "I know you will be a very good crossing guard." Betty, Perry, and Robert smiled as they watched Dottie's children line up to help their mother practice for September. So she's not the thief. She's not the lettuce thief, that's for sure. "You certainly can't have a better witness than the mayor," said Betty as they left Dottie's house. Dottie gets crossed off the list too. So you see everybody's crossed off the list. "That leaves only one suspect," said Perry. "Are we going to go visit him?" "No," said Betty. "I have a better idea." And she led the way to the county fair. And so you can see all the little forest animals are all headed towards the county fair. They have a Ferris wheel up here, lots of flags flying to announce the fair. Okay, this is chapter 3, at the fair. Perry, Barry, and Robert headed for the tent where the lettuces were being judged. See these nice lettuces? "There it is," cried Robert. "There is my beautiful head of lettuce." He rushed over to read the card pinned to the lettuce, and it said, "This lovely lettuce, perfect in every way, was grown by Sly Fox in his private garden." That's what that note says. "It was not," shouted Robert angrily. "I grew it, not Sly." Perry looked at Betty. "What are we going to do?" he asked. "Wait and see," said Betty. Just then, the judge came over, and he looked at the lettuce, and he read the card. "Well," he announced, "it certainly is a lovely lettuce, but it is not perfect. There seems to be a large leaf missing from it." Betty stepped forward. "I think this is what's missing," she said, "and here is the card that belongs on the lettuce head." "This head of lettuce was grown by Robert Rabbit," read the judge. The judge put the leaf back on the lettuce. "Perfect," he cried. Mr. Rabbit's lettuce wins the first prize," announced the judge. "This brand new shiny pogo stick with red tassels," exclaimed Robert happily. Now there's a pogo stick. I don't know if any of you have ever seen one or played with one, but they are kind of fun. You can bounce them. There's a spring right here. You put your feet up here, and you just bounce along. Takes a good bit of balance, though, so that you don't fall off. While everyone gathered around to congratulate Robert, Betty and Perry left the lettuce stand and headed towards the entrance. They caught Sly Fox trying to sneak away. There's Sly Fox right there, trying to sneak away. "Shame on you," said Betty, "stealing Robert's lettuce. Why did you do it?" "Oh, because of the prize," said Sly Fox. "I always wanted a pogo stick. Robert doesn't need one. He's a rabbit. He hops and jumps everywhere. He doesn't need a pogo stick. It's just not fair." "Well, that's not a good reason," said Betty. "Robert worked hard. He deserves his prize. If you want a pogo stick, you will have to earn it in an honest way." So now we're having a conversation. So what does Robert say? He says, "If you help me weed my garden, Sly Fox, I'll share my pogo stick with you." Now, isn't that a friendly thing to say? It's always important to share things with our friends. Robert Rabbit and Sly Fox shook hands together. "Another case solved," said Betty and Perry happily. "I'm hungry," said Perry. "We never did get to finish lunch." "Then let's get some popcorn," said Betty, "and go for a ride on the Ferris wheel." Oh, look at the picture of the Ferris wheel. That is something I have always loved going on myself. See, there they are on the Ferris wheel. They've all some of the other forest animals are there. It looks like they're having great fun on that Ferris wheel. When you go up to the top, you can see a long, far away. And it's really, these fairs are a great deal of fun, and I'm sure sometime your parents will take you to one. And that is the end of that story of the case of the missing lettuce. Now, that's all of the stories for today, but before I go, I would like to remind you about some things that the library is sponsoring along with the Upper Chichester Township. First of all, we're going to have music with Mr. Andrew on Tuesday mornings at 10:30, starting June 15th. They'll be every Tuesday morning until the end of July. And he will be performing at Kingsman Park in Upper Chichester, and that's actually the future of the new Upper Chichester Library. So I hope you'll come. Bring a blanket, sit back, and enjoy it. It's for anybody who wants to come and participate with the stories in the songs that he sings. And then we have Family Fun Night on Tuesday nights at the Township Building, and those will usually be at 6:30. And the first Tuesday night will be June 15th. That's kind of the kickoff for the whole summer event. At that time, you can sign up for kindergarten through fifth grade reading club for 2021, and get your reading color your world. You read a book, or you read for 60 minutes, and you win prizes all summer long. And you can sign up for it after June 1st with us at the library, and there will be prizes being given out all the way until August 31st. And each participant will be getting a reading log to fill out with the name of the book and or how many minutes you have read. Then in grades 6 to 12, we have something called Teen Beat, and there will be weekly drawings. Again, every book read is one entry for our weekly prize drawing, and winners will be drawn every week throughout the summer. Okay, you can stop by the library to sign up, or you can sign up on June 15th up at the Township Building. Then we're doing something new this summer, the Upper Chichester Library applied for a grant from the Foundation for Delaware County for a STEM program. STEM is an acronym for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. And it's a program being developed for 6-year-old to 13-year-old children. And it's going to be part of the summer camp at the Upper Chichester Township building. And the camp is being funded by this grant. And the STEM program, again, is a free program for these children. And you won't be using textbooks like you do in school when you're studying science. They will be fun and interesting projects that you're going to do together for the summer. Let's see, what else do we have in here? It's like a brochure, and you can pick this up at the library. We have made up a lot of them. Just stop by and we'll give you one so that you can be reminded of all the activities going on this summer. Tuesday nights after the June 15th kickoff, summer kickoff, the other Tuesdays we'll have other events all the way through till the end of July. We're going to have a beekeeper, we're going to have a magic show, a music night with Mr. Andrew, the Pirates will be coming, and the visit from a canine officer who is named Elu, and those will all happen at 6:30 on Tuesday nights. And then at the very end, on July the 27th, there's going to be an end of the summer ice cream party. So all of these events are free. The camp itself is not free. There is a fee for that per week. But the STEM programs, the reading programs, Mr. Andrews' music programs, they're all free for everybody to come and enjoy. And we hope that you will take up our offer. Come and get the brochure. It's this one. It's called Summer 2021 Fantastic Family Fun. And we hope to see you at the library or over at Kingsman Park for Mr. Andrew, or at the Township building for some of these fun nights on Tuesdays. Goodbye for today, and I'll see you next week.